experience is the experiment.
Today's guest hails from North Carolina by way of Atlanta, Georgia, and now lives in not-so-sunny Los Angeles, California. She's a singer, DJ, and producer who's not only seen the world by tour, but she has her own night in L.A. called Long Story Short. Please welcome today's guest, Carter Cruz. Welcome.
Hi.
What's going on?
Well, it's fucking rainy as shit outside. Again.
Crazy. I'm fucking sick of it.
I can't live like this.
I love a little bit of rain, so LA feels green.
Right.
But 2 months in a row, I'm done.
So long. Well, everywhere I was in February was cold ass places. I was in New York. When I got to Boston, it was negative 40 degrees with a wind chill.
Fuck that.
Which was, I don't think I've ever felt anything like that. When people talk about like what hell's going to be like, oh, you're going to burn for all eternity, I would prefer that.
Over cold.
The minute I walked 20 feet from the taxi to the hotel, just this short distance, and I was like, do I just die? Like when I walked into the hotel lobby and I walked into the girl and I was just like, do people live like this? Like just so over the top. And I thought she was going to be like, oh, this girl from like California, whatever. And she looked at me and she goes, girl, I've lived here my whole life. This is unbearable. And I was like, okay, it's not just me.
It's not normal. Negative 40, I'm pretty sure, is when Celsius and Fahrenheit meet. That's how you know it's cold.
How does that even? I don't even know what that means.
I don't know how it's possible, but I know like freezing for Celsius is 0.
Right.
But somehow when we hit negative 40, it's equal for both.
By that point, it's just so miserable. It's just hell.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like I was like, this is so much scarier. If you told me that going to hell was like you would feel like that, I think maybe like I would have been much more religious growing up, I was like, is this hot?
Isn't climate change supposed to get hot and not cold? This seems a little weird.
No,
I guess
that's not how it
I guess
works.
it doesn't both.
That's not how it works.
I got my hopes up. So
no, I think it just means like more extreme weather for everyone.
We're having it. We're doing it.
We're having it.
So you grew up in mostly North Carolina?
Yeah, I moved from Atlanta when I was pretty young, but I feel like it is a huge part of my upbringing because I'm kind of from like in the city in Atlanta, and my parents lived there obviously, before I was born. And where I grew up in North Carolina is at the time, it was like, one of like the safest towns in America, and we would call it the bubble. Because it was kind of very like golf courses, like Stepford Housewives, like all these. It was just very, cookie cutter. There were so many rules about what your house color could be painted and all these different things.
It had to be, they all to be like identical.
Yeah, very, very not me. And, but also it was a place that everyone would always have their doors unlocked. If I went to any of my friends' houses, you would just walk in their front door and just be like, hey, like, what's up? And because we were from Atlanta, like that was not how we did things. So I was really raised like, oh, you always lock the door. Even in college, I would lock my bedroom door because I didn't trust any of my roommates to lock the front door. Yeah. And everyone would always be like, why is your door always locked? Like even my friends in high school, they come over like, oh my God, why is your door always locked? I'm like, because I'm from Atlanta, bitch. Like,
I'm the same way. We grew up because Jack is here with us, who I know you from. And where we grew up was incredibly safe. And my parents lock the door 100% of the time. And now I'm the same way. Like every night before I go to bed, I will lock the door. And then I lock our bedroom door. And I don't fucking know why, but I'm going to keep doing it.
I'm glad that I was raised like that, especially because you don't know where your kid's going to grow up like later and live. And I feel like when I got to Los Angeles, I had never really lived in this big city, but I felt comfortable here. I didn't feel, and I know like I took one of my girlfriends in college. We went up to New York to visit some friends from schools over the summer. And she was this like small town girl from North Carolina who had never been to a big city ever in her life. And it was just me and her. And I'd only been to New York once, and we're just by ourselves. And we were trying to like get somewhere. We were like in a very touristy area, trying to like put our luggage somewhere so we could like walk around the city for the day before we met up with our friends. And this girl is just wandering around with her, like looking up like this, like she's like, oh my god, she's so
Where
overwhelmed.
the fuck are we?
And I was like, yo, look like you've been here before. Like you're gonna
get mugged.
Yeah, you're gonna get us robbed. Like you gotta walk, like just
Absolutely.
like look forward and go forward. And I was like, okay, even though I wasn't from a city, I like understood how to exist in it, and I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think being too jaded isn't helpful. Having a nice childhood is great, like as far as where you live geography wise, but also like it's the world's not getting better right now. We're not getting safer. It's probably pretty healthy to lock your doors,
Right.
especially when you're out here or you're in New York or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
I live in probably the safest part of LA. Glendale, there's nothing happens here. And it's still, I lock my doors.
Well, I told my roommates, like, because I'd lived alone mostly out in LA. And when I moved in to a house with a couple different roommates, I had to sit everyone down and say, like, this is, like, really important to me. Because I was like, I don't know, I've had some, kind of scary interactions with kind of like stalkery fans and stuff like that, that were really terrifying. So, I'm even more careful about locking my door and
You can't
protecting
be too
our
safe.
address. I'm like, you can't give out our address. You can't be, like leaving the door unlocked. And it was driving me nuts, like the first year that we were all living together, because like the door would always be unlocked. No one ever had their key. So I got like a little lock box, but then like everyone would unlock it and take the key out, and then they just put it back in with the combination still set. I'm like, we might as well just leave the key in the door at that point. So I finally got one that's like fingerprinted. And I was like, all right, everyone has
That's
their
literally what's on my door. I started doing codes because the key would either be in the lockbox with the code in it, or the key would be sitting on top or sitting inside, and then nobody can fucking get in.
and then no one can get in. Yeah, I know. So yeah, definitely the fingerprint, that was probably one of my better investments. So now I feel pretty safe. It automatically locks 15 seconds after you close the door. Like no one's forgetting to lock it.
Why not? First of all, the fingerprint, you don't have to lose a key. You're good to go there. So a drunk night, you're just fine.
100%.
And nobody's getting in without you then.
Yeah, exactly. And you can send, like, I have like where you can like create on the app, like you can like create like a little code. So if there's anyone who needs to get in, you just send that to them, and it's like only good for the day, or know.
That's so smart. Yeah, this city's getting fucking sketchy.
Yeah.
It's getting sketchy. But I feel like also when a place gets a little sketchier, art becomes more important, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like you think of New York, like Brooklyn back in the day was like the center of it, but it was also like the fucking sketchiest place to be.
Right.
So
I know.
hopefully it brings back some I don't know, creation.
Well, I think sometimes like that, like what we would consider like sketchy, or like it comes from probably like a lot of economic hardships and like and like societal like issues, and that are like very important. And so that's a time when art is so important, because people are creating to go against the system and to express themselves in that. So that's definitely very true.
So tell me how you got into the music world. I was reading in like 2015 you started DJing, or you released your first song?
Yeah, in 2015 is when I started doing it professionally. But I learned in college. It was funny. My nickname in college was DJ Bextasy, and it was before I ever even learned how to DJ. But I'm from the South, so electronic music was not a big thing back then.
Yeah.
People were not. I would go to frat parties and I'd be like, you guys, trap is about to be the biggest genre.
Absolutely.
It's going to be so huge. I was so into this trap music in 2010, 2011. 2012 was probably like the height of it.
Yeah.
So this was like a year or two before. And I'd be going to these frats where they just listen to like Sweet Caroline and like all this shit.
Some oldies.
Which like I like all that stuff too, but I was like playing them this stuff. And there was only a small group of us that were kind of fans of it. And it's pretty interesting because all these people that I was friends with in college, that we weren't really friends. We all had different friend groups, but we all liked electronic music. And so we'd go to shows together, and nothing really came to our college town. So we'd have to drive an hour and a half, 3 hours to go to these shows. And I wouldn't see these people like most of the time. Yeah. But then it'd be like, oh, there's this show happening 2 hours away. We're all going to go together. And most of us are still really good friends. And they're the people that I wasn't even that tight with. We were just rave friends. That's all we were. And most of them work in music still. Yeah. And I still see them. We've done events together. We've made music together.
It's a great community.
Right. It's really cool that it's like, that brought us together. But so I just was like very into this kind of music. And everyone thought it was like kind of quirky. Totally. And at least all like the Southern boys and everything. And I was like, I remember I was at Gareth Emery in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I saw like, he's playing, and he's trance music, so much different from like, the kind of stuff that I do, but I love trance music. And I just remember I've been to so many DJs, but I don't know, there was something about that show that just really spoke to me. And I like looked at my best friend, and I was like, I'm going to do that. And she was like, everyone's like, okay. Like, yeah, okay. Like, whatever. And, but so I just kind of like, I was always talking about it. And one day my neighbor who lived across the street from me, she walked in to my house, and I'm just like hungover laying in bed. Like, just and she walks in, and she's like, walks in with this random guy I've never met before. And she's like, hey, this is Pete. I'm like, hey, Pete. She's like, he was from New Jersey, so he was kind of like into that kind of music. Because that's how I learned about it, was this one fraternity I was friends with. They were all kind of like Jersey, New Yorker kids that
like
had
the Jersey
like come
house
down.
Days.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So they were the ones who introduced me. Like they were like Skrillex, like was the first artist I ever heard, and they like played for me, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And this when I was super into dubstep, like absolutely. The hard shit,
Flux Pavilion,
yeah,
Dr. P.
all the hardest stuff, and so she like walks in. So she's like, oh, he's a producer and a DJ. And I didn't know anyone who like knew how to do that. It's like I knew we had a few DJs in our college town, but they're just DJing in like a room up there for like the whole night.
And they probably weren't producing too.
Right, exactly. And she was like, I guess she knew him because he lived behind her. So it was like kind of across the street from me. And she was like, was like, oh, wait, you gotta meet her, And so she's like, he's going to teach you how to DJ. And I would go over there to his house, and he was like, all right. So I would go over to his house, and he had this like, it was like, I don't even know what it was. It was just the tiniest little shitty little mixer.
Yeah, like an old Serato controller.
Yeah, no, it was, I don't know. It was so simple, you know, but it was so, at the time, it was so out of anything I had ever really thought about. And so we would do that. And then I remember like, of course there was a vibe there. So he would like teach me how to DJ, and then we would fuck, and then we'd smoke cigs in his bed. And it was
that's
really,
real EDM right there.
It was a really like, I always think back really fondly on that time, because it was just like so like, I don't know, just very college, and just, I don't know, just like when you're smoking a cig in the bed, like who does that nowadays? Like,
absolutely. It was like back then too, techno and all that stuff it was still the roots. Now it's starting to come back, and like a lot of these big tech house guys are mainstream now.
Right.
But back then it was like that. You stand behind your CDJs or whatever, you bob your head and smoke a cigarette.
Yeah,
and that's what the whole crowd is doing.
Wait,
everybody's on acid or Molly.
Is it Gustaffelstein that always like fucking
absolutely?
Yeah, oh, I love him. He's so good.
Yeah, we grew up in Detroit, or right outside of Detroit, and there was something called DEMF, which is Detroit Electronic Music Festival. Now it's Movement.
Yeah. I know what it is.
It was all like house, like deep house, G house, Detroit house, tech house, all that type of stuff, and it's just fucking chain smoking the whole time. Absolutely, it's a different world than what it is now, but it's all in the same lineage.
Detroit was a city I played in like a good amount, like early on. I haven't been there in a minute. I mean, I flew through there the other day. I went through the airport, but I haven't played there in a minute. But that was kind of, I had to connect a friend up there that would like book me up there. And, but I remember like it was when I first started DJing too, like at least professionally, people would always, like the resident DJs would always stand behind me like this. And watch the whole time.
Yeah, they want to make sure you're not just pushing buttons. I
know. I was like, B, do you know me? I'm such a perfectionist. Like,
well, and that's just like, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who just have bad days and they have to just play a pre-made set. I don't agree with it, but it's like
that's no. There's no bad enough day to play a pre-recorded.
I agree, but there's like big DJs who they know what they're doing, and you see them like that one time, just like fucking pressing play when there's nothing starting, or just
Right.
fucking with the EQs the whole time.
I mean, sometimes I feel like there's times where performance comes through where you have to worry so much, especially if you're a big artist that is like producing your own music and there's so many working. Like a good example is when I was on tour with Bert Kreischer, when we were played at Red Rocks, it had to be so specific with the timing.
Yeah.
So, I made a lot of edits for that. So, there was this one part that I kind of made like a little mini mix. So I was DJing, most of the time, but it was something that like I could do live, but if I fucked it up at Red Rocks with like, they're like, we got 30 seconds till this happens.
Yes.
If I fucked it up, it wasn't like you could just do a recovery like you could at any other show. So
Totally.
some of those things you would kind of just pre-do to make it where everything like lined up. But it's not like I did that the whole time. It was for like a 4-minute period that's like, okay, this is a super difficult mix and we're not going to risk like messing up the entire show.
But that's just knowing your job at the moment. And like there's times when you're supposed to be mixing and there's times when you have a job to do. And like if there's cues, you have to fucking hit those cues.
Right. And when you have to perform too, because it's like there's times where like, okay, especially you see a lot of guys like, you got so many like 2 white guy DJ duos. And it's like, I'm like, wow, that's like so great for you guys. Only one of you can DJ and the other one of you can be on the mic and interact with the crowd. I'm like, I've always done it, myself.
Absolutely.
And, I realized when I first started like DJing like professionally, I was very big on I learned on turntables. I was practicing scratching. I wanted to walk in there and be like, this girl is like, just dope at scratching.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I could be doing the coolest thing on the deck and like no one would care.
No one gives a fuck.
They don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They don't they have no idea that I'm doing anything. And it's just like something I like practicing every day. No one would care. All they want is like, can you take my phone and take a picture?
Yeah.
Or like, do you want to take a shot with me? And so it's like trying to balance that. So I'm glad that I did force myself to have that very like good understanding. But then I was like, okay, like I'm not A-Track. Like people go to see A-Track because he is like this master on turntables and can do all this scratching. It's like people are coming to see me for a different reason. So, okay, maybe I'll not worry so much about making this like perfect exact thing and be more fun and interact with the crowd and be able to jump down and like dance with people and make more of a party situation than, just looking at the decks the whole time and not even paying attention.
Well, and like even A-Track has duck sauce. He has these different things so he can go just fucking party and have that aspect of it. And when he's going to scratch, there's a specific crowd. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I love the art. I learned on Technique 1200s. That was my world. But there is something, it's different. That's not a party scenario. That doesn't work all the time.
No, definitely. I think now too, with like all the tech that you have, people look at that and they're like, oh, well, it's so easy now.
Yeah.
But it does make it easier if you want to go simple. But now there's so many more things that you can do that you couldn't do before. Yeah. And so it's like one thing I kind of like judge DJs off of is like when I see them load up their music, if they don't have any hot cues, because
that's so smart.
I'm a hot cue hoe, and I'm like,
too.
I love my hot cues. You can do so much interesting. You can make so many interesting mixes. I love to like layer songs. I love to do those blends. I love to, because a lot of times I'm playing like bottle service clubs. I'm playing parties for college kids. I'm not playing the most underground stuff. I'm playing sing-along stuff that people know. So how can I play this in a way that people haven't heard? What can I put together where people go, oh my God, like I know this song, but it's so different than what I've heard. And so like hot cues are such a big thing for that. And I know a lot of guys that came up, back in the day, like scratching on turntables, and now they use their, they're all still on Serato. So what's the,
like the controllers?
Yes, I have an XDJ RX2 like at home, but it's like the one that's like the Serato version, but it's very similar. But it's got the pads on it,
and the little screen.
And but like you watch them, and I mean they are doing crazy routines with these things that, a person that's uneducated about it would look at that and be like, oh, you're using this like super high tech thing. Like you're not doing anything. And it's like, no, they're doing something that like no one else could do. They're doing something. So those are the people I like to watch because they're people who came up with the old technology, who mastered it, who are so good. But instead of rejecting the new technology, they said, how can this make me better? How can this make me grow as a DJ? And those, I love to watch those people and just be like, ooh, I never thought about doing it that way.
Well, that's how you know you're obsessed with it too, and that you love it. If somebody doesn't, like, you don't go to somebody and be like, why aren't you building that house with hand tools? It's like, what? Why fuck wouldn't I use the best thing I can get? And all it does is it gives you more tools to be more creative and be more expressive. And
Right.
I don't know. There's always going to be somebody out there who wants to judge everything, yet they're not willing to get off their ass. Do you know how many people say, I want to be a DJ? And then tomorrow they fucking forget about it.
Oh, I remember like back when I was first, like kind of starting to do it professionally. It, it was like, I mean, it still is like, but it was like that kind of era where everyone was doing it. It was everyone, but I had been doing it like as a hobby for years. I'd always been like into it. And, but people, it was just everyone was doing it. Everyone was trying to be a DJ. And none of those people DJ anymore.
Absolutely.
Like almost none of them do. Like they all did it for like a year or two, but they didn't want to get better. They didn't want to grow with like, especially like doing this for, almost 10 years. It's been, maybe like 8 professionally. It's been, music taste changed. Like when I look back at my old sets and stuff that I played, I had such a specific sound. I was really into this trappy, kind of like upbeat, bouncy kind of style. And people just stopped making that. It wasn't a thing anymore. And then I started getting booked for all these open format clubs, which I hated. And
that's the fucking worst.
Well, I hated it at first. I was like, I want to be a trap and like bass DJ.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do. But because I had an Instagram following and I'm a girl, just like, oh, let's put her. And they'd be like, no EDM, like only hip hop. But then I was like, well, the reason I like trap is because I do like hip hop and rap music. So I kind of, at first, my first year doing it, I was just like, I hate this, but it was just money and people were booking me to do it. So I'll go do it. But I didn't like it. And then after a while, I was like, okay, actually I like this. Yeah. And then when house music started getting really big, house was always something that I had never had a huge love for. And, I kind of resisted it for a while. But then I get booked for gigs where they'd be like, well, you're going to play house music, right? And I'm like, well, I guess, And then I kind of fell in love with that. And so now it was like I've noticed so many times in my career, I've resisted this change that's been put on me, whether by it's been the trends or by what I'm getting booked for and resisting it. And now after doing this for so long, I actually find that to be one of my favorite parts of the job is when I got booked for to headline a heavy bass show in Denver, last year, I guess.
Which show?
Because I don't know. it was outside of Denver. It was some real raver
some underground shit. Yeah.
And I'm headlining it, and I hadn't played, but the kid who booked the show had seen me years and years before that's when I was playing, and he booked me for this, and I'm like, dude, I haven't played that stuff in so long. So I had to go in and dive in and figure out what I'm going to play. But how can I stay true to who I am as a DJ now, but while still playing for this crowd? And now to me, that's what keeps this job exciting. If I was just playing whatever I liked all the time, because I'm a pretty versatile, I like being versatile. I like being thrown into something where I go I can't do that. I played a tech house after hours recently, and I was not a tech house fan, and I got booked for it, and I'm like, okay. I dove in for a week. I just went on because I was like, okay, I gotta play some popular shit, but I can't show up and just I gotta have some underground stuff, stuff where people be like, oh my god. So I had to go and just deep dive. I'm going through Spotify, I'm going on SoundCloud, I'm reading all these blogs online, trying to get an understanding. And then I suddenly, by the end of this week, I was like, I think I love tech house, and then I was really excited to play the set, and I was so proud of the stuff that I had pulled out, the way that I had put these things together, and so I don't know, that's what I like about it.
But I think that's a testament to how much you enjoy what you do. There's so many people that once they find themselves comfortable, they'll sit in that for way too long, and you don't get better that way. And if you like what you do, you want to be getting better. If you're not better the next day, then you did something wrong, because there's always something more to learn. And when you find yourself in those positions and your idea of combating it is sitting down and figuring it the fuck out and being the best at it you can, that's why we do this shit. That's why I'm obsessed with people who are in this industry, is we're a bunch of fucking crazy fucks who are so obsessed that we're willing to go do whatever it takes just to be up there and expressing ourselves. And when you see people dancing and smiling and you know that you've had a million nights where you go home and you're like, God, that was amazing.
Right.
You're giving them that.
Right.
Like, what's
right.
fucking cooler than that is you're giving people things that they're going to remember and tell their kids.
Right, exactly. That's what I felt at that Gareth Emery show when, I had always loved going to raves, but there was something special about that where I just thought, I like what he's doing. He's playing trance. He was chill. I'm a very hype person. I'm dancing around. I'm like headbanging, and he was just chilling. But there was something about his energy. He just was. I don't know. I just was in awe. I was like, you're giving me this experience. I still think about it. That was 12 years ago or something, and like it got me into this industry, and like I still think about it, and like what a special experience that was being there with my friends and just like having, I don't know, just this overwhelming feeling of happiness. And so I do love that. And I'm also very ADHD and get bored very easily. So I can't every once in a while you'll be kind of on a little bit of a tour run where you're playing a lot of the same gigs. Yeah. And, sometimes you don't have a lot of time to like sit down and like start pulling out new stuff. And so maybe you'll have like 3 shows or whatever where you like kind of like go off the same crate. Yeah. And after like 3 of those, I'm like,
starts to feel mundane.
Die. Yeah, no, exactly. Because I'm like, I hate this. And it's like, I know the crowd doesn't know. But since doing this party in LA, with long story short, it's been really great because I can't get comfortable ever. Because, I was used to only traveling. Yeah. So I'd be, I'm in North Carolina, then I'm in Texas, then I'm in San Diego. Like, no one's coming to the same show. In theory, I could play the same thing every time as long as it fit the crowd and people wouldn't know. But with doing this party in LA every month and then doing other things in LA, so sometimes I'm playing here at least once a month, if not more than that. And then the same people are coming out to them every time. You have to change it up. Right. And it's like, it's especially because with long story short, it's such an open format vibe and we do so many throwbacks. And so it's always trying to find, I'm like, what's that throwback? Like, I'll be at some random, I'm in some random state and I'm getting a beer at some bar, and then there's some throwback that comes on that I haven't thought about in 15 years. Yeah. But I love it. The minute it comes on, I go, oh my God, I love this song. How have I not thought about it? You don't even remember who made it. You got to Shazam it. Yeah. We're just sitting in like the shitty little sports bar, like Shazamming this song. And then I'm like, oh, it's that one. And then I'm like, okay, that's going in my next set. So trying to find these things where I want people to go like, oh my God, this like unlocked a memory for me. And having to do that every month is a challenge. And, but it keeps it fresh and exciting for me.
Some of the best music is when you hear something, you're like, the last time I heard this was on a fucking iPod. Yeah. That's how you know that it's been a minute and it's time for it to come back.
Or like when you downloaded it off LimeWire,
Oh, absolutely. I remember the LimeWire days. Gosh, I wish people nowadays or kids nowadays would never understand what that felt like. But you go on and you're like, you hear on the news some kid got caught for 100 songs. And you're like, I have 50,000 from the past 4 weeks and 9 movies and 10 games. And
I can't believe that. Like, I don't know if my parents were like aware of what we were doing. I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like my parents were pretty like, my dad's like a computer person. Yeah. So I feel like they couldn't have not known, but I feel like they wouldn't have been like thrilled about it. But I don't know. I was always scared. Like, is that going to be me that gets like caught?
Absolutely. I stayed at my grandma's house and she got a call from Comcast that they were going to shut her internet down or whatever because there were so many illegal downloads. And it was all me. It was all me. I almost got my grandparents fucking kicked off the internet.
Oh my God. They were like, we don't understand.
I'm like, it wasn't me.
How bad would you feel like your poor little grandma like can't watch her shows anymore because
she was still taping them on DVR. Yeah. They would have been fine. Probably would have been for the best. Yeah. So when you were playing with Bert, was it just a completely different atmosphere from what you were used to as far as how you were DJing, what the purpose was? I mean, because you're playing it was like almost like baseball fields and shit, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like a tailgate for like the first, like, I would start right when they opened doors. So there's no one in there. And then for the first hour, everyone's in the parking lot. I can't even see anybody, you know? And, but it was the first day I did, I cried. I cried a lot because I was so scared of like, I was so happy to be there.
Yeah.
And everyone was so nice. And everyone was just like, you're going to be amazing. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think I'm going to be amazing. And everyone like kind of knew each other. And I was like kind of this odd person out. And I just like wanted so badly to make Bert happy and for him to be glad that he brought me on it. And I just didn't know how to do that. And, I was just like, I remember I was getting ready and I was trying to do my makeup and I was just sobbing, crying. You know, I'm just like putting on mascara, like, you know, just like, I was just.
Absolutely. The nerves.
Yeah, the nerves. And just like, I didn't, you know, I hadn't really been in such a, like, outside of anything I'd ever done, especially where, you know, also where I cared so much.
Yeah.
And so I was very, in the first day, but by day 2, I realized that my job was to be fun and to like, bring a party vibe. And once I realized that, I was like, okay, this is like a lot less pressure. But over the, you know, course of the tour and everything, we really kind of like perfected. I started realizing like, okay, like these are the songs. And I started making really cool edits and mashups and stuff. Cause, you know, like Bert likes a lot of like, he likes like Wilco and what Steely Dan and stuff like that. But he also likes some kind of, you know, like classic hip hop stuff. But then I also wanted to kind of infuse a little bit of EDM into it.
Yeah,
too,
bring yourself.
Especially when we were at Red Rocks, you know, I was like, this is an iconic music venue. Like I need to put something together. So it was just like putting together, like I have this one edit that's, it's like Bohemian Rhapsody that goes into the drop of Losing It by Fisher, but over the drop of Losing It, it has 50 Cent just a little bit.
Oh, unreal.
And when that hits, because people are already like, oh my God, Losing It. And then it's just like, when that like, of the just a little bit comes in over the drop, everyone's just like, what? Like,
and Fisher fucking brings it every time.
So I was trying to take, I'd be like, all right, let's find like a rock or, you know, kind of, you know, in that vein kind of music. Let's find a hip hop song and then an electronic song and like put them all together. So we're going to smash all these together into like multiple little edits.
That's so fun.
So yeah, that was really, really fun. And that's what I really, really love to do is putting, like just mashups and edits. Like I love making them because I'll hear something. I'm like, oh, you know, it sounds so good with this. Like, okay.
And then it starts to work and you go fucking ape shit by yourself.
So excited.
It's the best. And what a cool community to go do it with too. Because I feel like my issue with the music community is we're still in this place of everybody's the other. And I think that's starting to change. And post-COVID, it feels a little better. But everybody's in this place of like, if you make it, you're taking my spot.
Right.
Comedy is all about fucking cutting your teeth. All these people understand what it's like to be standing up there by themselves saying the stupidest shit and have nobody laugh. And that's just part of it. That's supposed to be part of it. And I'm a huge fan of that. I think that's should be part of our community too.
They're very supportive.
Absolutely.
I've noticed that like very early on that they all like share each other's specials. They all really support each other. And I'm that kind of person.
Well, you were saying you shared Bert's today that just came out.
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, the other day I posted I was playing in Cincinnati and he like posted on his story and was like, everyone go see Carter. Like,
how cool.
Yeah. I was like,
you guys get connected?
Actually, it's kind of like, it's a weird story. But I was like a fan first of Tom and like had seen, like I'd gone to his show and like out here in California. And then from there started like, well, like I listened to the Machine Story, which that was the first, you know, of course, intro to Bert, which I feel like is most people's.
Do you remember showing me that, Jack?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is me. Like, this would literally be something that I would get into. Like, it was just so, and so then I like kind of listened to like Two Bears, One Cave. And, but it was funny because I think I followed Bert. And then one day, one of my guy friends realized, he was like, hey, you know, Bert follows you back on Instagram. And I was like, no way. Like, that's cool. Like, they're so dope. And so he like, all my guy friends were just trying to get me to like basically use me to get to Bert.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a lot of my guy friends do that. They'll be like, oh, you know, DM this guy, whatever. Like, I'm pretty sure like little Dicky just like thinks I was like trying to fuck him because all my guy friends are making me like DM him and like invite him to stuff. And he was just like kind of awkward guy. And he was like, okay, like, yeah, like, I don't, okay, like, this isn't weird. Like, I'm not trying to get with you. I'm just, honestly, I didn't even want to send you this DM, but I got really bullied into it.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of what happened with Bert. We were having a house party and it was, I guess, right after COVID. And all my guy friends, you know, telling me, oh, you got to invite Bert. And I'm like, that's so weird. He's gonna think this is so weird. But I did send the DM and I said, hey, I know it's like hella random, but having a like big pool party at my house, like you should come, like bring Leanne, like, you know, whatever.
No way.
And actually, when I did meet Bert, he told me he was like, you know, that's when I knew that we were gonna be friends because you invited Leanne, and he said like, you know, it made me know that you respected my family, and so you respect me. And I was like, well, of course. Like, I wanted you to know that I wasn't being weird. Like, I was like, and I told him, I was like, well, really, I just wanted Leanne to come, but she didn't follow me yet, so like, I had to ask you instead.
God, that's so cool. What a cool community to be combined. Because I think there's very few people that are as similar as musicians and comedians. And a lot of those podcasts and that whole world was a massive impetus to me getting into this and now being fucking, this will probably be close to the 100th episode, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, congrats.
Thank you so much.
Like, yeah, I mean, that's consistency. I tried to do a podcast for a minute. It's hard to like keep up with it.
It's really tough. And I think the reason I started it, first of all, I'm the kind of person where when I have somebody that I have a small core friend group, but they'll get calls from me. I make sure they're okay, and vice versa. Like somebody like Jack calls me, he'll be like, "What's going on?" I'll be like, "What? Nothing. What about you?" He's like, "I just calling to see how you're doing." Like that's the people I wanted in my life. And one day my girlfriend was like, "Why don't you record some of these combos? You clearly are obsessed with these people in this industry in this world." And now we're here and having people and like hearing you talk about DJing and going to these positions where you're uncomfortable and you have to make. You have a job to do, and you understand that you can go do the job or you can do the fucking job.
Right.
And the fact that you pick that option, to me, that's why I do this shit. I love it. I'm obsessed with people that are obsessed with what they do. And you clearly love what you do.
I do. I mean, I love to. I remember, like, when I was in college, before, I was actually a psychology pre-law major in college. And, you know, I always wanted to be an actress. That's all I wanted to do. And, you know, my parents were really supportive about that until I was 18.
Because then you're allowed to actually do it.
Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, okay, that's been cute. But, like, you go to college and you get a real job now. You know, like, it's time to, like, leave the fantasy world behind. Like,
absolutely.
You know, like, whole life, they're like, you can do anything. Like, we'll put you into any lessons you want. They were so supportive, the greatest. But, you know, they're just being parents. And they're thinking, okay, well, we got to think about, like, how are you going to take care of yourself?
Absolutely. I think that also, they know you're a smart person then, and they believe that you can do it.
Right. And so at first I was a business major, because that's what my dad wanted me to do. And I remember at the end of my first semester, I think, I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I'm going to kill myself if you make me keep doing, like, business. Like, I was not interested in any of my classes. Except I will say my econ class, my freshman year econ class, I loved it. I had a fantastic teacher who had really bad ratings on Rate My Professor. And I thought he was fantastic. I sat in the front row of his class. I was like, this isn't even something I care about or like want to do anything with. But I just thought he was from, I think, Romania. And he would always give such interesting examples. Like when he was explaining a concept or something, you know, he'd be like, okay, well, like, so this is how it is in the US. But like, so in Romania, like, just the way that he taught, I thought he had a very strong accent. I think that was one problem because we're in the South. People are like, oh, I can't understand because I have to pay a little extra attention. But like, just the way that, you know, and it's like, but I thought the way that he explained things and his, like, he clearly had such a passion for economics and he had such a broad understanding and could give different examples in different countries and where you get this whole, and I just thought that was fascinating, even though I didn't like necessarily care about the subject. I was just so fascinated with him as a teacher. But that was the only class I liked. All the other business classes, I was like, I'm going to kill myself if you don't like let me change majors. But, you know, he couldn't be a theater major. So where do we compromise? Psychology. I'd always loved psychology, always been interested in the human mind. So that's what I was doing. And I was like, you know, okay, I always thought I could go to law school and be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. And obviously, I forgot where the fuck I was going with the story because we
started getting high.
Yeah, we started getting high. I know I was like, yeah, exactly. I was in college.
I can't recall.
And
Jack, do you remember?
There was a point. I swear. No, none of you guys remember. Wait, we were talking about, okay.
We got to retrace our steps.
People.
What was it?
People loving what you're doing.
How'd you start?
Oh, how you started.
How I started what?
When you abandoned that path.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, you're so right. Good job. Okay.
He's
How
the
I abandoned
babysitter
that
for
path.
tonight.
Yeah. Well, so I applied I was so dedicated in school. I was
Yeah.
taking extra hours. I played on a club team here. You should take this because I'm chatting. I can't focus on both things at once. It's hard enough to keep my
I'm right there
words
with you. I'm going to
straight.
sit on that for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a good idea. I was taking, I volunteered like every Tuesday at this, like, they taught like English to people. And I wasn't really teaching English. I just watched the kids. So I'm doing that on Tuesday. And then after that, I would go straight to lacrosse practice. And then I had to get assigned by my, you know, the guidance counselor to take extra hours. I go to the gym like twice a day. I was like, I'm going to go to law school.
Getting
Like,
after
I'm
it.
getting straight A's. I'm going for it. And at the end of my sophomore year, that's when you apply for all these internships.
Yeah.
And I applied for like 3 internships. 2 of them were like, oh, shoo-in. Like, I'm a straight A student. Like, I have all these extracurriculars, philanthropy chair of my sorority, like all these things. And then one was a reach. And that was the one I really, really wanted. I desperately wanted it. And I always think if I got this internship, but it was so unlikely. It was like they only give it to like seniors or people that are like graduate students. Like, I was way too young to apply, but I was like, I want this so fucking bad. You got to be like an investigator for like the like State Department, like, you know, like I don't know, it was some cool ass job in law, and so I wanted that so bad, and I didn't get any of the internships, not a single one, not even the ones that I thought were like so easy, and I was like bummed about it, but I don't know, I just figured that's just part of life, and then I was hanging out with all these girls that were like straight C students. They had no, you know, they're all like very like, you know, just not like me at all. But they all came from like rich families and like their dads were lawyers. And these girls had internships I would have fucking killed for.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, and these girls don't even care. They're like, yeah, like my dad, like I'm in this internship. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, been busting my ass. So me and my friend had this talk about it, and we're like, oh my God, it's literally all about who you know.
100%.
Like, so I started just like being way more, before I wasn't being as social. Like, I had friends and stuff. Obviously, I've always been a social butterfly, but I was so focused on what I was doing. I wasn't going out very much. So I started going out a lot more because I was trying to meet people. I was like, all right, I need to like expand this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about having these grades and everything. And then I started like kind of like partying and shit. And I was out, my first job that I got, I was applying for all these places downtown. No one would give me a job. I'm out one night just raving at this club, just obliterated out of my mind, just dancing on a pole, like on a stage, like, you know, in some spandex neon outfits, some very 2010
Absolutely.
shit, you know? And the owner comes up to me and he's like, do you want to work here? And I was like, wow, that's how I got the job. I could have come in here and applied and been like, sir, I'm a straight A student. I'm like super good with people. Doesn't matter. And then from there, so that's just like, I kind of gave up on that whole, and then I realized that's how I realized, like, I just love, like, I love nightlife. I love being out with people. I love, I don't know, just the community, and I wanted to do that forever. And so that's, I don't know.
Well, you did it.
I don't think I fully brought that as full circle as I wanted it to go, but
I think it did, though.
you know.
I think
We almost got there with a little help from Jack Henry. It was like,
A little help from a
he
friend.
was like,
I feel like-
he got us partially there.
I feel like, though, it shows that it's a good way to understand how this industry works and what a good introduction to, like, hey, I love all these things. I love going out, but I also got to make a living.
Right.
What a great way to intersect the two and get to do this forever. And it also teaches you how to do it sustainably. And
Right. Well, I mean, of course you got to, like, you know, do it professionally. I mean, that's what I was saying about someone's having a bad day, and so they're doing a pre-recorded set. And I was like, there's no reason.
I
Because
take that shit back.
I mean, well, I'm like, I had food poisoning once. I didn't drink at all. I did take one tequila shot, and then I realized that I wasn't feeling good, so I didn't drink anymore. So that was the only thing I had hours before, and I was just yakking my brains out. And I had to go DJ this set, and I'm like, well, I can't not DJ it. So I went, and I got there, and I said, I need a bottle of water, a bucket, and a packet of gum. And I need those things right now. And,
what a rider.
And they're like, I need them now, or like, we're not getting through the set. Like, I'm not trying to be a diva, like, but this is just what I need, like, instantly. So they like go and bring it, and I put the bucket underneath the decks, and I put in the gum because I was like, have been yakking for hours, got my water, and then I would be DJing, and I just would bend down and just yak. But I was dancing, and people were coming up to me and being like, that was like the most fun. You're just like, so, and I was like, no one knew that I was just absolutely yakking my brains out. So yeah, that was
that's it. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's just making it.
But also it's
sober.
just like, well, it's like you got to have some, because you love what you do, right? And you care about what you do, and you care about the people. Like, I came there to give people a good time and to have that experience with them. And I couldn't, if I didn't come down there, this wasn't something where there's like a festival they can have someone else jump on, whatever. Yeah. This is like a thing where it's like, if I didn't go down there, because it was at this hotel, if I didn't go down there, they were just gonna have to put on like a Spotify playlist. It would have completely changed the vibe of the whole event.
You gave those people that night.
Well, yeah, I couldn't disappoint them, you know? And
I love it.
And I get so much energy off being in that space that even though I was sick, I was still having like a good time, because seeing all these people have such a fun time was like made it worth it, you know?
I don't think I could say it any better myself. I think that's how you end a podcast. That's unreal.
I'm a really good closer, you know?
That was it. So where can we see you? What's coming up? What's happening? What's in the life of Carter Cruz?
Let's see. Well, I mean, if you're in LA, we got Long Story Short every month.
What day, or is it different?
At Long Story Short Party.
Is it different days?
It's different, because right now we're still working. It's 3 of us. We got to work around all of our tour schedules. We try to space them out so, you know, it's not any more than like 3 weeks together. Yeah. And we try to give like at least a week or 2 week announcement. But it will start hopefully get more regular in the future.
Long story short, everybody, I'll be at the next
actually
one.
Next Saturday at Bar Lubitsch. I don't know when this comes out, but
I'll be there. This will probably be out after, but there'll be another
then you guys
Saturday.
Miss it.
But there's another one every month.
Yeah, there's another. This one might be our last one at Bar Lubitsch. It gets a little bit nuts. It's absolutely
full.
It's chaos. It's chaos, which is fun if you're there for that. But if you just come, like, some friends will just stop by to like support, and they're like, I can't deal.
Yeah, too many people.
Like, you gotta come to rage if you're gonna be there.
What a great place to be, though. That means it's getting bigger and more people want to be there.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely it's really, really fun. But you know, I think it's good to have like some variety. So we'll switch it up with some rooftops, some pool parties, and stuff like that. And but yeah, then I'm gonna be on Bert's tour too, and it will be out before that. So June and July.
Beautiful.
Fully Loaded tour.
Go see her on Fully Loaded. Go see Long Story Short. Go look up Carter Cruz and listen to some music. And I appreciate you coming on. This was so much fun.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. Let's do another one for sure.
I really never smoke weed when I do podcasts.
Well, next time we'll smoke earlier then.
I know exactly. The minute it went in my brain, I was like,
yep.
I don't know where was I going with this.
That's the best part of it. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will see you soon. And to everybody out there,
I'm Carter Cruz, and this is an experiment.
Yeah, it is. Bye, everybody. Love you.
The experience is the experiment.